Okay, I've got a couple of things I just want to start with before I hit the main topic of talking about opportunity challenges. Um, and the first thing is just to give you a quick reminder of who I am. I'm Neil McDonnell, president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I do these daily lives every day from noon to 12:30 East Coast time on weekdays. And the reason is I just want to share what I know with you, in particular with people who are struggling to get started, whether you're getting started in a new small business or you're getting started in a role. I really like to provide information that helps you move forward. Some topics are at a what I would call an introduction level. Let's call it from a college standpoint, a 101 level. Other topics move on up into the 201, 301, and 401 level. And today's topic is probably going to be more in the 201, 301 level, right? So you will definitely value it if you're just getting started, but it's a little bit more sophisticated in its content. And again, it's going to be about capture in the federal standpoint or federal opportunities, looking at the background of an opportunity, or excuse me, not background, but the challenges around an opportunity. So I'll come to that in a second. While I get started, you probably saw a screenshot. Let me just do it again so you can see. I get rid of my face and you can see this screenshot here or a picture. Go download these directories. These are super helpful to save you just a ton of hours in research. And what we like to say is let us do the research and you make the calls. You can find that those directories on govconchamber.com. The last thing is, I don't want to just give you information the what, right? I really focus on the how. I say government contracting is not a secret, it's just a process. And the tips I'm sharing in general and specifically today, these are designed to answer the question, well, how do I look at an opportunity's challenges or the challenges that lead into the opportunity I'm looking at today? So that's what I want to be able to share with you. And really, it's driving towards one goal, is to help you begin to make more money. The way you make more money in my mind is by following a proven process, doing the right things the right way. So I'm going to get started. I see we're a few minutes after 12. I just want to pull up my little cheat sheet note here. Okay, so today's topic is going to be around challenges and uncovering the challenges related to an agency, a buyer, as it relates to the opportunity you might be looking at. So I'm going to use an example of, let's say I'm trying to get into the Air Force and I want to do software development. As I get through talking about today's tip, I want to use the Air Force as the example, and I'll use Amazon Web Services Cloud. So I might go back and forth a little bit there, but that's my intention, is to go there. And this topic is helpful to you if you don't think you're winning enough proposals, or you're submitting proposals, you think that they're top notch. Hey, we wrote exactly to the PWS and to the RFP. We should be able to win this thing. If you feel like that's how you, those are the proposals you're writing great proposals, but you're not winning, then perhaps one reason might be you don't truly understand the government's challenges. What drove the need for this requirement that you're responding to? And that's what I want to talk to you today about is, well, how do you learn their challenges and how do you begin to connect them into the response that you put into a proposal when you're going after an opportunity? One thing I will say is the higher up or in dollar volume that you go, the more this is important. And so I've said this before, I work on large dollar opportunities, 100 million north, so much higher, but this plays really well into any opportunity that's, let's say, 10 million and above. Then you definitely need to be looking for challenges. If it's below 10 million, then there might be a lot more just transactional activity going into something. And so maybe challenges play less in your response, and it really is more about pricing. But when you start going up in price, understanding the mission, the challenges, et cetera, which I'll get to, is vital. So I said this early on, government contracting, it's not a secret, it's just a process. Capture is a process of its own. And in my 20 years as a government small business owner and a sales guy in that in those companies, I've always had a challenge with understanding the process. How I hear you telling me what to do, but I don't know how to do it. And that's what I want to talk about today as it relates to the capture process. One part of it is challenges. So what are challenges? When you think about challenges, the first place you might look for challenges is right in the PWS. When the government puts out an opportunity on SAM or wherever, and they're putting out draft documentation or they're putting out the actual RFP, the PWS tends to have begin to talk a little bit to the challenges that they're facing. So before they get to the scope of a requirement, they will go into the background, the organization, who we are, what we've been doing, and maybe a little bit of what they're running into. The PWS is actually one of the best places to find what I call implied challenges, because if they're asking for something, let's say that you're saying, I want to know how to write winning proposals, then the implied challenge might be, well, that you feel like you're not writing enough proposals. And so I could shift that over and go, okay, you are not writing enough winning proposals. And the objective you have is to write a winning proposal. But sometimes the government doesn't come flat out and state their pain or their challenge, but you need to uncover that. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But uncovering that in the PWS partly begins at the top of a PWS or performance work statement. And then it really goes into just the other language that they put in there. The program office and the other people who have taken the time to write this PWS have spent months thinking about what they want. They've gone back and forth with the contracting officer and other people in the acquisition lifecycle and really had to refine what they're looking for, right? It's a very sophisticated process for how the government buys, how they hold themselves accountable to clearly defining the requirements and then clearly evaluating the requirements being met. But somewhere in there is all this dialogue about why are we doing this? And in the PWS, although they might not name every problem they're running into, you can understand it just by looking at every single paragraph of the scope, the task areas, and ask yourself, well, what challenge is this going to address? Now, if you're in IT services and they say, we want a help desk, there might not be a lot of challenges. But if they sit there and say, we want a help desk that increases our response time by 50%, there might be an implied challenge there that they're facing, that they're not responding as fast as their customers want. So I would write that down. Hey, I think that's a challenge. And if I have a little time or, not very much time, then I would probably just write on the assumption that that is a challenge. And, this is not proposal writing exercise today, but I would do that. But if I have more time, which you should have, I would be going back to the program office and asking them questions about this particular pain. Hey, how's the response time? What kind of response time are you looking for in the next 5 years compared to the last 5 years? You want it to be the same? You want to kind of improve it? And if you ask the right questions, they'll talk about their pains around response times. Are the customers complaining to them that they're not getting fast enough response time? And this isn't reflective on the incumbent. Maybe the incumbent's not being paid enough money to have enough people to support the volume of calls. And so these are the things you learn when you start exploring challenges. So that's the PWS and the RFP package, if you will. It could be in the RFI when they're dropping draft performance work statements, et cetera. Then another place that you can go, and I'm going to lay out several ways that you can go in. So this is going to be, a fire hose. These 3 days that I've done, yesterday on background, today on challenges, and tomorrow on objectives, they are a fire hose. I teach this stuff one-on-one and in a course, and it's much more involved. But you can just replay this video and come back and write down the things I'm saying. So when I talk about finding challenges, you can look in the annual report or strategic plan that the government puts out. When you look at a strategic plan, they'll often talk about these are the challenges we want to address. And as a bonus, you'll see the objectives and goals as well. But look in there and write them down. And let me back that all the way up as well. You don't want to just look at a program office annual report or strategic plan. You want to back that all the way up to the highest level you can. And I'll talk about that in a minute about how to find that. But by looking in all these documents, they will state those challenges. I put out a document once from DoD that literally the document said our top 20 cyber challenges. That was like gold to anybody in the cyber industry, because you look at those 20 and you say, which ones can we address better than anybody else? And you grab those 3 or 4 and you begin to pursue them. In that case, it'd be like business development. But if it's related to an opportunity, it'd be like capture. That one was really handy, but you can find that same type of information in the strategic plans and annual reports. Another one of my all-time favorite places to go is GAO. If you go to the Government Affairs Office, gao.gov, you'll find reports. And you can say you're going after the Air Force like I did. I could type in Air Force and GAO, and they'll come back with some report in the last year or two that talks about top management challenges, top organizational challenges, things like that. They might not be directly related to the opportunity you're looking at, but when you begin to stack them all together, they will make sense. For example, GAO might put out a report with the Air Force saying, hey, the Air Force is getting attacked too often on cyber. They need to improve their cyber protection, whatever, right? I'm reaching for the example there. Well, that might relate to some opportunity you're chasing. But here, GAO is talking about the Air Force in general, but they'll put numbers around it, because I can't say that word apparently. They'll put numbers around it, and you can reference those numbers when you're talking to a program office exploring their unique challenges. And you can also reference it in the proposal, which is, a line or a paragraph that is telling the customer, hey, I'm thinking about challenges all the way upstream because these people are hearing from their bosses and their bosses are hearing from their bosses, type thing. Okay, so another great place is industry day events. If you go to an industry day event, often in the presentation, they'll talk about the challenges they're facing and the challenges they want to overcome in the coming year. So go find related industry day events to this opportunity you're chasing, but also to this one program office or this one command. If you find their industry day slides, you'll see them talking about some of the challenges that they'd like to address. And in DoD in particular, they do a very good job at trying to communicate that out. So an obvious place, I hope you know, is picking up the phone and calling or going in and having a meeting with the program office. We small businesses sometimes gravitate towards a contracting officer or a small business professional. While those people are helpful and have some information, they are not what I call the focuses of dissatisfaction. They're the focuses of receptivity. They're willing to talk with you. Or in the contracting officer's position, they're the focuses of power. They sign the check, but they're not the people who do the work. And so the program office, when you get in, you start talking with them, they'll begin to expand on the challenges they have beyond what's written. That's the whole point of capture and even business development in general, but capture specifically to this opportunity. It allows you to get in and start asking those questions about the problems they have and helping that problem really get clear in your mind, as well as what challenges have led to that. Are they lacking people? Are they lacking skill sets, et cetera? By having the conversation with the program office and through multiple meetings, you will really understand their challenges. And let me put it in perspective, right? Large companies hire colonels and captains coming out of the services and bring them in and turn them right back around and say, look, I just want you to keep us aware of what's going on. Well, because they just came out, they have a lot of good relationships. They're able to get in the door easier than you or I. And they also know they know that service, right? But the idea is that they can get in often and discuss it. That's why large businesses are very good at understanding the customer's problems. We smalls, we need to make sure we're not going everywhere. But if you focus on an agency, you can begin to develop that same relationship with program offices, et cetera. Last place I'll tell you is the teaming partners. Make sure you're reaching out to teaming partners, because as you bring them on, one of the criteria you should have around choosing a teaming partner is that they have an awareness of the customer somewhere from the program office up, and they can communicate that back to you, some of their goals, some of their challenges, et cetera. That's a criteria I might put on when I'm looking for a teaming partner is, do you have experience in this agency? If you do, that's awesome. That's where we're going to go. So talk to them. So that was what our challenge is, and maybe how to find some of them. When you go into why is it important, I alluded to this a little bit, but the biggest reason is because if you can learn challenges, you can align them to your proposal and you can align them to your recommendations. You're going to go in and you're going to write a proposal and send it into the government and say, hey, we recommend you do this. And I talk about this a little further too, but they want to know that you understand them first before they care about what you're saying. When you know the challenges, you're able to communicate that you know them. I did this with a customer a few months back on a $100+ million opportunity where we were able to really understand the challenges and come up with a list of 125 challenges just by reviewing the documents, looking at some external resources, all stuff that you have available to you. None of it costs money. None of it required some subscription. It was all just on the internet one way or another. And actually, this was with a customer that was completely cut off to us. So that's the part I like best, because that means you could do this exact same thing with no money and be able to do it. It just takes the time to try to uncover the problems. But we found what we defined as 125 challenges that then allowed us, going to tomorrow's topic, to align challenges to objectives. But imagine how the customer feels when they see that we understand what they're trying to do from so many different angles. And we did that through those suggestions I did earlier about where can you find challenges. Okay, so I wanted to give you one more, reinforce this idea of looking at challenges beyond the program office and go up. So let's use, I said the Amazon Web Services, and I might be going after something like that at the Air Force. In particular, there's an opportunity I'm going to chase, and it's at the Digital Directorate in the Air Force. It's a pretty big program office within the Air Force. And so I want to understand their challenges. What are they putting out? They've got digital transformation documents, things like that they're talking about, that I can learn some of the challenges they're facing, and they know they have, and they know they want to overcome. So then I back up higher to the LCMC, Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, I think it's called. And this is the higher office. And so I look at them and what's their bigger initiative. So maybe Digital Director is focused at one component of digital transformation. LCMC is focused at the whole digital transformation. LCMC is under AFMC. AFMC is under the Air Force. Air Force is under DOD, and DOD is under the White House. And I know my team's going to give me feedback saying I'm talking too fast, but that's the problem with 30 minutes and a lot of information. But understand this. I can go from the Digital Directorate all the way up to the White House and find related challenges. The Executive Office of the President puts out memorandums that talk to certain things. They just put out a cyber memorandum. They put out record management memorandums. They have their own strategic goals for the administration, which all of the departments should be focusing on and saying, how are we driving towards some of these goals? And so you can look through this. And this takes, let's say you're going after a $5+ million contract, for you to put in 24 or 40 hours of investing, understanding the challenges will be well worth it, because you will know that customer, frankly, sometimes as well as the people who are going to evaluate your proposal, and you can speak to it with casual references or maybe a graph that links those challenges together and how your solution addresses it. And so that's why I try to tell you to look at all of the higher commands when you're looking at challenges. Okay, so I want to talk, and I know I'm blowing through this pretty fast, but I want to talk about how challenges can be useful in proposals, and then how they're used in evaluations. If you have questions about what I'm saying, feel free to throw them in the comments. I'd love to try to get to them. So in the proposal, one of the ways that I already said is you can demonstrate your understanding. So when an evaluator looks at a proposal, one of the first things they're looking for is, do you get me? Do you understand my agency's mission? Do you understand our challenges? Okay, you do. Great. Let me see what you're proposing. And then I'll begin to evaluate it. But if all you do is jump straight to the recommendation, well, how does that recommendation align to what I care about? Not just the requirements and task areas. Yes, I get it. You're going to do the job. But how do I get that you understand what we're facing, the mission in the government, for example, of supporting the warfighters downrange? How do you understand my mission? Do you understand the challenges we face with supporting them? If you understand our own challenges, then when you recommend a solution, I'll feel like your solution is based on me and not based on the fact that you've offered this same solution to 50 other opportunities type thing. The next thing is consistency in writing. This one I really like in how does it help in proposals? If you have a team and you can put together a page or 2 or 3 pages that really articulate from the prime contractor's position the challenges the government is facing, then perhaps you can get a consistent, maybe not consistent voice yet, but a consistent perspective. When you write me 2 or 3 pages on your piece to the opportunity, I would like you to write from this perspective. Think about the challenges we've identified the government has, write your portion to that. And so now my teaming partners are also writing with an eye to that challenge. And so maybe their portions, they figure out how to insert some of those challenges into their portions. And the last thing is with win themes. Anybody who writes proposals, you know that win themes can be a challenge sometimes. If they're easy for you to come up with, then I would argue that maybe you're reusing win themes instead of having a win theme specific to these people. But when you truly understand the challenges the government's looking for, it's so much easier for your strengths to be shining and a win theme to come up. We're going to address this thing. And if you haven't written proposals before, this might be a little confusing for you, but you're going to write something, and somewhere in there you need a win theme that goes through that you want to communicate to the government. This is not a win theme, but just imagine I say we're better than everybody else, right? And my win theme is that. Well, all through the document, I'm trying to communicate why we're better, or we're better at understanding your challenges than anybody else. And the way I'm going to communicate that is by including their challenges throughout the document. Not verbatim statement, but an understanding, a written understanding of your challenges weaved into my response. So I talked about how challenges help with evaluation. Just want to talk about how they're used during evaluation. So when the government gets proposals and they start looking at it, first off, remember the people who are evaluating this, they're people. They're just like you and me. They go home and they gotta take the trash out once a week. They've got to pay bills, same as us. They just happen to be in a different role. And so when they look at things the same way you might look at it. If you're going to get a painter for your house, there's a way you're going to evaluate those painters. And so when you look at evaluation period, you want to differentiate yourself from the competitors. Your first goal is to make sure your proposal is a winning proposal. Your second goal with that is that you're differentiating yourself from your competitors to the point that yours is the best winning proposal. And one of the ways you can do that is by demonstrating a clear understanding of the challenges they face. I talked about this and I wrote this down here. When buyers look at this, they say, do they understand what we do, where we're at? And that means my current situation, my challenges, and where we want to go, my objectives. Do they understand that? Okay, now I'm ready to listen to your proposal, your recommendation. Where should we go? And so that's important to remember how challenges and knowing them fit into the evaluation. And the last thing is aligning your recommendations to the challenges. I see you have these challenges. We can totally help you with that challenge through this recommendation, and here's why. And this gets into a much deeper proposal writing recommendations, but having that alignment is where they'll be able to connect their needs with your solution and feel good about it. So the last thing is, I've said this before, and I really like this line. I've modified it a little bit. If you forgive me, there is buyers won't care what you know until they know that you care. And they only learn this when they're evaluating the proposal. They're not knowing this beforehand. The buyers don't know that you care until they see the proposal. No matter how good are your relationships at that point, the buying decision comes down to the proposal and evaluating it. So your proposal needs to communicate how much you care about your customers. So that was my fire hose in there. I look forward to my evaluation by my team about speaking really fast, but I get very excited about understanding the challenges and objectives. If you really want to win a proposal, don't throw things over the wall that are just cut and paste. Really get in there. It doesn't take you a lot of time to understand a buyer, a customer, to include that into what you're doing. So I'm looking over on the chat here to see if we got any kind of questions for folks. Definitely throw your name in for me and your core competencies. I like to see that. Give me a thumbs up if you found today's topic valuable. I'm going to tomorrow continue this theme of capture. I've been talking all week about the capture process. And tomorrow I'm going to wrap up the week with objectives. How do you understand the objectives? And I'll give you a teaser. It's not just the objectives paragraph or section within a PWS. Often we kind of fall prey to that. We look into the PWS and we see the word objective and we say, oh, here's their stated objectives. Well, that's great. That's what all of your competitors will see. Tomorrow, I'll talk about how do you learn more objectives and understand their true objectives and put them in there into your proposal and address them in your proposal. So that's what's going to be in there tomorrow. On Tuesday, we have a webinar. When you talk about trying to find challenges, objectives, even the background yesterday, all of it is beginning with the ability to reach the right people. And so on Tuesday, I'm doing a webinar, finding and building relationships with people that'll lead to federal revenue. So sign up for that. You can see the link right here, govconchamber.com. You go there and you can click to sign up for that. I'm looking here to see last minute questions. I do not see it. And so I'm Neil McDonnell reminding you, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you next time.